Welcome to SportsKop Podcast Edition with me, Dita Sriwast, and Chengiz Khan. Today's topic, we'll be talking about Major League Baseball and the free agent signings that have been happening throughout the league. So Chengiz, welcome to SportsKop.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess we'll start off by the biggest topic that was circling baseball in recent weeks. Obviously, I don't think I saw this coming at all. I don't know about you. But Prince Fielder was traded to the Tigers for Ian Kinsler. The Tigers obviously had a void at second base, and they filled it with Ian Kinsler. And the Rangers had a huge void, and Fielder, no pun intended, filled that huge void. So what do you think of this deal?
Yeah, it was definitely surprising from the Tigers' perspective because they had just given Prince Fielder a pretty big contract, which in itself was a surprise.
Right.
But from the Rangers' side, you could kind of see this coming because they needed Jurickson Profar to be on the field every day. And they wanted him to have a set position. And Ian Kinsler was kind of expendable because he was aging in his career. But he was still a decent player. And, I mean, Fielder is still a really good player, even though he had a down year. He was still, I would say, outperformed Kinsler. So it was kind of surprising in that sense, but it is a big salary dump for the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, now the Tigers have room to maybe re-sign Max Scherzer.
That's a big reason they probably did that.
Yeah, probably. And also, Fielder really didn't do so well in the playoffs for 2 years in a row now. I mean, I remember seeing him play against the A's 2 years ago, and he didn't really contribute much. And last year, it was really a downer for him when it came to playoff time. So maybe they just thought that, you know what, maybe we'll just move on. We'll sign Max Scherzer because he's probably more valuable to the team. And they're getting a good piece in return. I mean, Kinsler's not a bad guy at all. He's
definitely not. And they have more room to improve their defense and possibly go after outfielder like Shin Soo Choo.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what to do with this new cap space.
Yeah, I think both teams win this trade. I think it's a win-win for both sides. I don't think any team really lost.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, now you have Jurickson Profar playing every day, and Mitch Moreland is no longer your weak link in your lineup. So
yeah, that's not good for an A's fan, but yeah.
Yeah, not good for an A's fan.
All right, so the next one we'll be talking about is Brian McCann. Obviously, he was someone who was with the Braves system for a long, long time. Decided that his time with the Atlanta Braves would be over. He was a free agent. He rejected the offer that the Braves gave him. And now he's with the Yankees after signing a 5-year, $85 million contract. This might seem like maybe a risky contract for a guy like McCann who's older. He's more on the later end of his career. But I think it's a good deal for the Yankees, who desperately needed some power in their lineup. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think it's a good deal. I mean, McCann, when he was struggling on the Braves a couple years back, it was because he had like eye problems. And since then, he's been one of the top offensive catchers in the league. And even at the tail end of this contract, you could just put him at designated hitter, and it's not going to affect you too badly on the field. I mean, he's definitely an offensive catcher, but as a left-handed hitter in that ballpark, I don't see how you can go wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the situation with A-Rod as well. I mean, if he's not with the Yankees, then obviously you need someone to bat for cleanup. With Teixeira, we don't know whether his wrist injuries have gone forever. With Jeter back, obviously he signed a 2-year contract with the Yankees. You might say that the Yankees are getting older by the day, kind of like what the Phillies are doing, but it's a good signing. I don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah, it's a good signing. I mean, you're adding a premier offensive bat at a position where you're not going to get a lot of offense. Like, you're going from Chris Stewart to Brian McCann. That's a huge leap.
Yeah, that's a huge upgrade. I mean, I remember when the
Yankees can afford to overpay anyone, so
that's true.
I don't see how this is a bad signing at all.
Yeah, like I remember they had Jesus Montero, who was supposed to be the one who was going to replace their catcher, but I mean, he went to the Mariners and he's stuck it up there.
And Michael Pineda still hasn't gone on the field.
Yeah, that was a really bad trade, I think, for both teams. Yeah. All right. Another major signing was when the St. Louis Cardinals surprisingly signed Jhonny Peralta to a really big contract for 4 years, $53 million. Something that you wouldn't really expect the Cardinals to do because they are someone who definitely depend on their youth system. They don't believe in signing players, especially who's come from a PED suspension recently. Of course, Peralta did really well in the playoffs, did really well against the Oakland A's, was decent against the Red Sox. What do you think of this signing, Chengiz?
I mean, it's definitely an upgrade over Daniel Descalso and Pete Cosma.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that.
And, I mean, it's interesting because Brad Ziegler and other players are speaking out about this because he's coming off a PED suspension and he got a bigger contract than his previous contract. So I think the league is going to start trying to do something about this. I don't know what exactly they could do, but
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what you could do from as far as the PEDs go. I mean, it's kind of hard to justify saying that Peralta does not deserve the contract based on what he did after the suspension, because in the playoffs he proved to be pretty essential for the Tigers, because in game 3 and 4 he was pretty much the reason for the Tigers to come back against the A's.
True.
And he did really well against the Red Sox too. Yeah, he's not defensively that great, and he was played in left field, interestingly, by the Tigers for some of their games. But he definitely has a good bat, and the Cardinals didn't have to give up a lot from their farm system because they were trying to get Troy Tulowitzki, and the Rockies wanted quite a huge amount of players from the Cardinals. As they should, because Tulowitzki is one of the elite shortstops out there. But I think, yeah, the contract's kind of hefty, but since it's the Cardinals, and since they didn't really lose much, and it's a huge upgrade over Kazmir and Daniel Descalso, as you said, it's a good signing.
Yeah, I mean, you like a little less on the years in the contract and maybe a bit less on the price, but you kind of just trust the Cardinals at this point because they don't make bad moves. Like, look at the Carlos Beltran signing. People thought it was expensive at first, and it ended up paying huge benefits for them. So
yeah, I mean, they're looking good for next year. I mean, even when they're losing Beltran, they have Oscar Taveras in the wings to replace him.
Exactly.
So they're set. Speaking of the Cardinals, they also traded for Peter Borges and Randall Grichuk, I think that's how you say it, for David Freese and who was it? Fernando Salas. It was a relief pitcher from the Cardinals. David Freese, obviously, he was the hero of the 2011 World Series. One of my favorite players ever since then. The Cardinals have Colton Wong filling up in second base. Matt Carpenter could move to third. So they're not really losing much. And Peter Borges might turn out to be a good signing. What do you think of this?
Yeah, Peter Borges is an excellent defensive player. He's got terrific speed. He's still young, so his bat could still improve. And the Cardinals tend to improve people's bats. And John Jay wasn't a very plus defender, so it's definitely an upgrade over there. And then, of course, you have Oscar Taveras waiting in the wings.
Yeah, really. The Cardinals are just getting younger. They just know how to reload every single year. I really think that the Cardinals are kind of like your model for a business when it comes to sports.
They're the model franchise in MLB right now.
Yeah, but David Freese, he is a Gold Glover at third base. Yeah, he's not really elite when it comes to power, but he's definitely a 2020 guy. His speed has kind of declined over the years. He was clutch in the playoffs. I mean, I personally don't really believe in clutch because I just think it's when you're good, you're clutch. But yeah, he's an upgrade for the Angels because they didn't really have a set third baseman last year at all. And now that you have Pujols and Freese in the corners with Ibar and Howie Kendrick for second base and shortstop, they have a pretty good infield heading into next season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Freese, he's injury prone, and his bat is not as good as it was in the playoffs, but he's still a pretty good player.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on from the Cardinals now. I think the next big topic to talk about is what the Minnesota Twins have been doing recently. They obviously needed a huge help in their pitching staff after putting some horrendous ERA from their pitchers last season. But I didn't see them getting so desperate to sign Ricky Nolasco for 4 years and $49 million, and then Phil Hughes on top of that for 3 years, $24 million. I feel like it's a lot of money for mediocre pitching. Is this an act of desperation?
Yeah, I mean, when the offseason began, you knew someone was going to overpay Ricky Nolasco and give him the 4 years he was seeking and not like a 2-year deal or 1-year deal. And this just happened to be the Twins. And Nolasco has been a mediocre pitcher since he got into the league. He's consistently mediocre is like my term for him because he's always the same, but it's not like a good same.
Right.
You shouldn't overpay or give big contracts out to people who you don't think have the potential to exceed expectations.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like, okay, if you sign them for a year, claiming that, this is kind of like a fixing project, oh, maybe they'll do good in the spacious ballpark that we have, then that's good. You have them for a year, see whether they're going to do well, and then you have the opportunity to probably give them an extension to their contract. But signing them for 4 years and 3 years, respectively, for Nolasco and Hughes already and committing so much money, I really don't think I really don't understand what the Twins are thinking, because if you want to compete for, let's say, the playoffs or even the World Series, yeah, I mean, you have to start somewhere, but signing mediocre pitchers for and overpaying contracts, I don't think that's the right way, because Nolasco is making more than Josh Willingham.
Yeah, I mean, and for the ballpark factor, I mean, Nolasco wasn't exactly in a hitter-friendly park in Miami, so
Exactly.
I don't really see how this is going to help that much in the long term. It's not a good idea.
Yeah,
to
and
be signing players like that to
yeah, and the
multi-year deals. But I mean, the Phil Hughes I can kind of see is not as atrocious as the Nolasco
one.
contract, because he was in Yankee Stadium, and I think a bigger ballpark is going to help him, because his biggest problem was home run rates.
That's true. Yeah,
So-
like that's the argument that I've seen a lot of people say, is that, Hughes is he's a good guy to, make a high risk, high
he has
reward.
high K rate, and the only problem is home runs. If he can limit those, which he should be able to do in Minnesota,
Right.
maybe that signing works out a little better
Yeah.
for them. But the Nolasco deal is what you see, what you get. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. You're not getting something really
Yeah.
great.
I mean, Nolasco, I mean, even the Dodgers didn't use him when come the playoff time. They decided to go with Kershaw and 3 days rest when it comes to the Braves.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of tells you something when it comes to Reagan Nolasco. Speaking of the Dodgers, they went on to sign Dan Haren for a 1 year, $10 million contract. Dan Haren, who got a similar deal, not as much money, but the same 1 year length from the Nationals, didn't really live up to his expectations last year. Do you really see him being a good starting pitcher for the Dodgers this year?
I can see it ending up being a good signing. I mean, I wrote about him on SportsKop. You can check it out. The low risk, high reward bargains. Dan Haren had a really bad year last year. He had like the 8th worst ERA in the league, I believe. But when he went to the DL and like cleared his head and came back, he had a pretty good second half, and his strikeout to walk ratio is still good. So I think it can be a underrated signing. I think it's not a bad deal. He's not being overpaid, which is something the Dodgers do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, we're kind of used to it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be their 1 or 2. He's going to be not even their 3, probably their 4 or 5.
Yeah, probably the 4th or 5th.
So I don't think,
Because they have Kershaw, they have Greinke, they might sign Tanaka.
I don't think they're going to knock out.
You don't think so? But yeah, I mean, they have the Korean guys,
Ryu, and then Billingsley is going to come back, and then
I don't think you can really depend on Billingsley that much.
obviously not, but he's a 4-starter. He's a 4-starter on a playoff team if he can bounce back to what he was before.
Sure, yeah, it's a good signing. Well, what's even more funnier than Chad Billingsley is seeing Chris Young getting signed by the Mets for $7.5 million after such a downer he had with the Oakland A's last year. I mean, the A's don't really spend a lot of money, obviously, the Moneyball system. They're not really a big market team. They went on to sign Chris Young. It wasn't a bad signing when they got him, because they kind of thought that, his wrist injuries are probably gone. He can be someone who can contribute, hit really good against lefties. But he did pretty bad, especially for the money he made with the A's last year. To see him go with the Mets, I'm not surprised that he went with the Mets, but I'm surprised with the amount of money that the Mets were willing to give him. And honestly, I have no idea where they're headed to. The Mets are just in a mess right now. It's really sad. I think it's kind of sad being a Mets fan. You had Matt Harvey, who did so well last year, and then he's now out for the entire season, recovering from Tommy John. David Wright signed a 10-year extension. That's one good thing, I guess, that you could hope for, in the next 10 years, that he is going to be the face of your franchise. It's tough though. It's tough being a Mets fan. If Chris Young does well, it's all good. I'll be more than happy to see him come back. Put up some really good power numbers. Maybe kind of someone like an Ike Davis. Low average but huge power numbers.
Yeah, I think his power is a little overrated though, because he was showing it in Arizona, which is known for like being a hitter's park. But
Right.
since then, he hasn't. I don't see where it's gone.
Yeah, and last year, I think he hit like 3 or 4 home runs that just barely made it past the Crawford boxes at the Astro Stadium. I don't think that's really that's. I mean, yeah, it's a home run. Anything's a home run, but it doesn't really show him as being that much of a power hitter. I don't think he really hit that many home runs in O.Co. And he was usually platoon too. The A's were more than happy to use Josh Reddick even when he was struggling, rather than Chris Young. That kind of tells you something.
Yeah, I mean the Met Stadium is not. It's probably as big as the A Stadium. You would think.
Yeah.
But maybe he does better in a starter's role, because sometimes platooning a guy can affect them.
That's true.
They're not performing all the time.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it kind of gives them, confidence that, they trust me. Now I'm out there every day. I don't have to, sit down on the bench, waiting for my bat, waiting for a matchup that can favor me. So
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, I think now it's time to focus on the Bay Area teams, our teams in specific. We'll start off with the Giants. They had quite a busy offseason so far. They signed Tim Hudson to a 2-year, $23 million contract, outbidding the Oakland A's by $1 million. They also re-signed Vogelsong, Tim Lincecum, and Javier Lopez. Vogelsong was signed for, I think it was a year and $5 million. The Lincecum one kind of surprised me because they gave him $35 million for 2 years. And Javier Lopez, who was a key bullpen man for the Giants, he is back with them for 3 years and $13 million. You're a Giants fan? What do you think of this?
So the Hudson deal is a good deal, I think. He was another person I wrote in my SportsKop article. I wanted the Giants to get him. He's been consistent throughout his career, and besides like one bad year, I mean, he's always a good pitcher, and he gets a lot of ground balls. He's not like gonna overpower you with his fastball, and his injury last year was like a freak injury where he just like got run over on his ankle. So he's not injury prone or anything. So I think he can get 2 more good years out of him.
True.
So I love the signing for that, and he's not expensive. So
yeah, he's an extreme ground ball pitcher, and he's pitching a spacious ballpark. The NL West is a good division to pitch. I mean, other than the Rockies, other than Coors Field, I don't think there's any other ballpark where it's kind of tough for a pitcher.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Vogelsong, that's a good deal too, I think.
Yeah, sure.
I guess they didn't want to give a multi-year deal to a 5th starter or 4th starter, so they just went the Vogelsong route. I think he'll bounce back. I think the World Baseball Classic affected him throughout the whole year, and he also had a freak injury right when he's about figuring things out.
Yeah.
He had a slump, but he was figuring things out, and then he got injured. So
right.
And I think it was a wise move to decline his option and get him at a cheaper price. I don't see anything wrong with that deal.
Yeah, I mean, Vogelsong, he was, I think he was with the Pirates, right? Then he was playing in Japan or something, came back.
He actually went full circle because he started out in the Giants system.
Right. So he went there, then went to the Pirates, went to Japan, came back. And he did great for them back when they won the World Series in 2012. And I mean, it's kind of tough as an A's fan to say this, but you guys won in 2010, then you won in 2012. Now it's 2014. Who knows? Maybe this is the year that you guys can win it again, thanks to these guys. What do you think of Lincecum?
Obviously, it was overpay, but you can kind of relate this to the recent NBA deal. Kobe Bryant re-signed with the Lakers for a huge amount, but you think about it, like they weren't going to let him go. The Giants know how important he is to the fan base.
Right.
They know how much marketability he has. I mean, He's the face of the franchise in some ways, besides Buster Posey.
Right.
And he's like the most popular Giant. He gets like the biggest ovations at the stadium.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and he still has talent. It just, I don't know the word to say. Maybe he can rediscover something. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's better than it's another short-term deal. So
Right.
that's a good thing. And I think they just wanted to keep him, and they got him back. So I don't think it's going to affect the Giants' payroll too much.
that's true. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Lincecum myself. Like I remember the days when he used to K a lot of people back
He
then.
still Ks. He still Ks. He gets strikeouts. It just the velocity went down, and
Sure.
he's said in interviews that he's finally having to learn to pitch.
Right.
He just blew guys away before. He
Mm.
used his changeup,
Yeah.
but now he actually has to spot. He has to learn how to be more accurate and learn which pitches to use in certain scenarios.
Yeah. Here's an interesting fact. On 420, Lincecum pitched a complete game without giving up a single run. So maybe that might help him stay in San Francisco too.
Very funny.
All right, the next one is Javier Lopez. I think it's good signing. I don't see anything wrong with
Another deal I can't complain about. I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
Lopez has been ridiculously good against left-handed hitters. He's only given up like 2 home runs in his like 3-year career here. So I
Wow.
mean, he's crazy. I don't see he's actually cheaper than their other left-hander in the bullpen, Jeremy Affeldt,
True.
who tends to suck in the regular season and do pretty well in the playoffs. So I can't complain about this move at all. I mean,
And it's pretty cheap, like a bullpen piece, 13 mil for 3 years.
yeah, I mean, all 4 signings. I mean, you can justify all 4 of them.
Right.
I think the Hudson and Lopez signings in particular are really good,
Mm.
and the Vogelsong is good, and Lincecum is okay, but you can live with that as a Giants fan.
Right. I think the Giants are set for next year.
They've made all their moves. They're probably going to trade for a left fielder
Right.
to platoon with Ricardo Blanco.
Or maybe they could sign Nelson Cruz.
I don't think they're going to go with another steroid guy after the Melky Cabrera situation.
Yeah, that would be kind of risky. But
I would ask them to go for Corey Hart, but I think he's going to command more than a 1-year deal, and I don't think they're willing to go. I think he's going to be too expensive for them now.
yeah, I mean, I think other than that, you guys are pretty much set. The heart of the lineup's still there. You guys have Pence, Posey, Sandoval. You have Pagan now, who's healthy, leading off. You have a good core of pitching, which is what the Giants heavily rely on.
Yeah, I think more than a left fielder, a fitter Pablo Sandoval is definitely going to help.
All right, moving on from the Giants, let's cover the Oakland A's. They recently, just I think like 2 or 3 hours ago, signed Scott Kazmir for 2 years, $22 million, which definitely blew me. It was like, wait, what is going on? And they were trying to sign Tim Hudson. They failed with that attempt.
Sucker.
They tried to sign Bartolo Colon again, and I think now it's definitely out of the picture. I don't think they're gonna re-sign
Yeah, I'm
Colon.
pretty sure Colon's gone now.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. I think Kazmir. I used to like him when he was with the Angels. I used to always root for him, like to get out of his slump. Then obviously he didn't even play in the major leagues for a year. Came back under Terry Francona with the Cleveland Indians. Did pretty well. He has been a guy who has always dominated the Oakland A's for some reason. Kind of reminds me of Justin Verlander. Too bad we couldn't sign him to our team just because he does really good against us. But maybe Billy Beane was thinking in terms of, okay, maybe Kazmir is the guy who he has a good K rate. If he can reduce his walks, if he can improve his command, I don't see him not getting any better. And he could be maybe the catalyst during the playoffs. Maybe he's the guy that Billy Beane thinks is someone who will help the A's in pivotal moments like Game 5s or even during, five-game playoff series, help the A's move on to the next step. Now that we have Sonny Gray, we have Jared Parker, Tommy Malone. I don't think Tommy Malone might stick in the rotation. I think it's going to be AJ Griffin who will stay. And then we also have the option of Brett Anderson, although
I think Brett Anderson's going to get traded now.
Yeah, because That's the rumor that's been circling around for quite some time, and
I think this makes him expendable.
definitely, yeah. I think the Royals are trying to get him too, so maybe he can
Maybe.
go there. Hopefully, we can get someone like Will Myers.
Kazmir isn't a bad signing. I mean, I remember him from the Rays back
Mhm.
in the early days of his career. He's always been a talented pitcher.
Hmm.
He's in his 30s, but he still has a pretty high velocity for a left-handed starter,
Right.
and that's pretty rare. So
Yeah.
I think it's good to have someone like that.
Yeah. I mean, now that
And
you
it's not a huge contract, so
right, and it's only for 2 years, so I think the A's are set. I don't think they're gonna make any more moves now.
just this one move.
Yeah, this is the one move that they're gonna have. Maybe they'll get a piece in return for Anderson if he's traded. Yeah, I don't really see them doing anything else for this season. They have Jed Lowry for shortstop. There were rumors circling that he might get traded to the Cardinals, but now that the Cardinals have Peralta, they don't need him.
I think he'll stay here for one more year before
Addison Russell.
he's ready to come up.
Right. Yeah. So I think the A's are locked for next season. They're just going to roll with this team with a core of really good, talented players, and they'll be set to compete against the Rangers and the Angels. Moving on, there's still a lot of free agents that have not signed with the team yet. So without further delay, our next segment we'll talk about prediction time. So, Chengas, the first name that we have to start with is Robinson Cano. Now, he's been someone who's asked for a $300 million contract for 10 years. That's obviously a ridiculous amount of money for someone like Robinson Cano, albeit Cano is an elite second baseman. Where do you think he's going to land up?
It's gonna be the Yankees. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of price. I mean, I heard recently that he's limited his demands to only $260 million, which
Only?
is kind of a joke. But
Yeah, really.
I mean, this is gonna happen eventually at a price that meets in the middle of where both of them want. I mean, I think Jay-Z is the one pushing this
Yeah, probably.
to like this new height of money, but
Yeah, really.
I mean, it's. I guess you can kind of see where he's coming from because that's what Pujols got. That's what like all these big names got. But the Yankees know like that didn't work out for those teams. And
Right.
Cano is on the
Other side of the
other side of
30s.
his career, and second basemen don't tend to be that great
True.
later on in their years. So
True. Yeah.
it's gonna happen. Just gonna be at a lower price. Probably not 10 years.
Yeah, I would say that he's going to go back to the Yankees too. The Yankees need him, and I don't think Cano really has another destination. The Dodgers might be an option, but I really don't see them signing Cano. I think he's going to be a Yankee. All right, the next big one is Jacoby Ellsbury. Ellsbury coming off a really good season where I think he stole for more than 54 bases. He obviously won the World Series with the Red Sox. Now he's a free agent. There were rumors that he might sign with the Mariners, but I really don't see how he's going to benefit being there. Yeah, sure, the Mariners might be rebuilding, and they have a lot of good pieces in their farm system, so maybe he's a good choice there. I don't think it's the Mariners. Let's take your input on this first.
Yeah, Mariners have a chance. I mean, he is a Northwest guy, and they're going to throw a lot of money at him, so you can't really fault a player for going after what's best for his family. But I could also see him going back to Boston. I still think that's a possibility.
True.
He's one of the better center fielders on the market, so I mean, anyone would be lucky to have him. It's just, again, it's a matter of price.
Yeah,
you
I
want
mean,
to pray for someone who's that injury prone,
right.
and you think his power is going to continue in a bigger ballpark than Fenway.
That's
the
true.
only really questions I have.
Yeah, I think the combination of Ellsbury and Victorino worked really well with the Red Sox last year. I think I'm just going to go for a Ellsbury reunion with the Red Sox. I've been saying that for Cano. I'll say that for Ellsbury as well. So that does it for, I guess, arguably the top elite free agents out there. Let's go on to the next level. We have Shin Soo Choo, who was released by the Cincinnati Reds. We have Tanaka. Tanaka. He is this guy from Japan. I think he plays for the Nippon Tigers. And then we have Carlos Beltran. So let's discuss these three guys. We'll start off with Shin Soo Choo.
I mean, the Tigers seem the obvious bet right now, especially after they got rid of that salary dump. And they have space to sign him now. I think he makes a lot of sense. He's going to get on base. Obviously, he has like the highest on base percentage last year.
Yeah.
And I mean, he struggles against lefties, but any team would be lucky to have him again. I think it's a good signing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would prefer him over Ellsbury, believe it or not. So
Yeah, that's...
I think Tigers are the team to beat in this case.
Yeah. I'm going to go off a limb and say he's going to join the Angels. I think he might be a good fit there. Now that Trout's moved to center field, they'll have Hamilton right field. So now maybe Shin Soo Choo might try out a new position at left field.
I think a corner outfield position for him would be better. I mean, he's not like Ellsbury, who's like an elite center fielder.
Right.
He's questionable in center field. I think right field or left field will suit him better.
Yeah, I think maybe Choo might move on to the AL West. The next one that we have to talk about is Tanaka. I really I don't know much about him other than I've heard a lot of things about him that he's been great in Japan. The one thing I have concern with him though is that he's been used a lot. They were talking about how during the Japan World Series he was used in a game through the entire game. He threw for more than I think it was 140 pitches, and then he was used as a relief pitcher in the next game to close out and win the title itself. Do you really think that those might be like somewhat of an issue for his durability when he comes to the major leagues?
I don't think it's much of an issue as people make it out to be. I think we're just used to this new era where people want pitch counts at 100 and then you're out of the game.
Yeah, that's true.
People like Nolan Ryan used to throw 150 all the time. Like that's just how it was. I mean, you look at Yu Darvish. He had extreme usage in Japan also, and
Yeah.
it's worked out well here. I mean, Ron Washington definitely like cut it down. He made sure he was conserving him the whole time. But I mean, you could do the same thing with Tanaka. I still think the Yankees are the favorites at this point. I think the Dodgers initially showed a lot of interest, and now they're kind of backing away from it.
Right.
It's interesting how they're suddenly trying to go a little cheaper. They don't want to mess with the big contracts like Cano and Tanaka.
Yeah, it's kind of
even
weird.
though that's where they were rumored to be at the beginning. But yeah, I think the Yankees right now are the guys because they're actually going to pay the huge posting fine to bid to negotiate with him and stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of similar to the Yu Darvish situation. The Rangers were the highest bidders, and obviously they got the rights to negotiate with them. I think I'm with you. I was thinking it would be the Dodgers for a long time because they really seemed like they were aggressive in the market for starting pitching. Then they got Dan Haren. So maybe they're not as interested as they used to be for Tanaka. So yeah, I think
the Angels are also in there. I heard something on MLB trade rumors.
Okay.
Suggesting they were also someone to look out for.
Yeah, the Angels, they have a lot of money. It's been spent pretty unwisely so far. So maybe this might be a good signing for them if they do go for him.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right, so that does it for Tanaka. The next one we'll talk about is someone who was invaluable to the Cardinals last season, Carlos Beltran. He has, come out of, he had a bad year, you would say, with the Giants. Then he was signed with the Cardinals, and in 2011,
his year with the Giants wasn't horrible. He got injured, which has been the only bad thing about his career.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plug our site again, SportsKop, because I wrote an article about Carlos Beltran and his greatness. I think he's a great player. I think he is aging. Like so many of these people on the free agency market. That's why he should only command like a 2-year deal or less. But I think there's a couple people still interested in him.
Yeah.
So it kind of can go any way. Again, the Yankees are at the top.
Right.
But you also have the Royals making a big push.
Yeah. The Royals. Where did that come from? The Royals are trying to compete. Last year, they came close. They came close to the wild card race.
They're like the Pirates in the sense that they're finally showing some signs of like a winning team,
Yeah.
but they haven't got to the postseason yet. And this year the Pirates broke through. Maybe the Royals think next year is their year to finally break
Yeah,
through as well.
maybe Beltran is the catalyst for them
Maybe.
in the outfield. I mean, they have a good core of players.
Yeah.
If Mike Moustakas doesn't suck as much as he did last year, and Eric Hosmer
Continues his he had a
resurgence.
great
and
great second
Alex
half.
Gordon being Alex Gordon, Alcides no.
and you have James Shield at the top of the rotation. It's a good team.
Right. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I think he's a good fit for the Royals, but I don't see him going there. I think he's gonna end up with the Red Sox. That would mean that Ellsbury doesn't go to Boston. So if Ellsbury doesn't go to Boston, I see Beltran ending up there. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to say. I'll just
There's
say
always
it.
the Yankees.
Yeah, there's always the
Unfortunately,
Yankees.
but
Yeah,
it's true.
that's true. With the money they have and the fan base and all that stuff, the ballpark's great for him too there. So yeah, maybe he might be a Yankee after all. All right, let's move on to Mike Napoli. Napoli, he was really one of the key players for the Red Sox in the playoffs. His home run, I think, was the only run he scored against the Tigers in Game 4 that made the Red Sox win that game. He was pivotal for them throughout the entire season. Signed for a 1-year, $5 million contract last year after they saw that he had some knee issues that prevented him from getting a 3-year deal. Now he's a free agent. I seriously think he's just going to go back with Red Sox. I don't see anything else happening. What do you think?
I think that's the most likely scenario. I've heard that the two fish teams, or the sea teams, the Marlins and the Mariners, they're both interested apparently.
No, I don't think he's
The
gonna-
Mariners have money to spend, obviously. If Ellsbury doesn't work out, they could always go for him.
Right.
I guess they really want Red Sox players.
Yeah.
And then the Marlins, it's kind of out of nowhere. I don't know what they're trying to do if they try to sign him, because
I don't know what
They're
he's
not
trying to
gonna
do if he signs with the Marlins.
they're not going to compete. They have a good young core actually,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're ready to make that big of a leap like the Royals or Pirates.
Poor Giancarlo Stanton, man.
Yeah, at least he has Fernandez now, but yeah, I don't see the Marlins thing working out. But I do think both those teams will raise the price on him. So wherever he does land, it's going to be a pretty heavy price.
Yeah. All right, so wrap up the segment. We'll go through 3 players that we think are high risk, high reward kind of guys. We'll start out with Ubaldo Jimenez. He was someone who, I think it was in 2010, like the first half of the season with the Rockies, he posted like a .93 ERA. People were saying, "Oh my God, this guy's amazing." Then he just out of nowhere just did horribly bad. Then he had a kind of a down year. Then he was traded to the Indians, and then last year he posted quite decent numbers. I think he had like a 3.6 ERA. He came back in the second half. What do you think of him?
This is one of those wild card picks
Yeah,
where you kind of haven't heard anything about where he's going. He has ridiculous stuff. He just has a really inconsistent. He has an inconsistent career, and mechanics that are, I guess, hard to repeat time after time. So
yeah.
it's a kind of a toss-up. MLB trade rumors has him at Blue Jays, so
Blue Jays.
maybe Toronto will step in and make that splash.
Yeah, I don't see him going there. Maybe I think he might just come back with Cleveland. Terry Francona's known to fix a lot of pitchers' careers back. Like, I mean, that's what he did with Scott Kazmir. Now Kazmir's with the A's. Let's hope Ubaldo Jimenez is not with the A's for a big contract. Like, if he comes for a cheap contract, that would be great. I think that would be a good place for him too to develop. I don't think he's going to be with the A's either. Not really sure here.
I'll just Angels also. I think the Angels really need to shore up their staff.
That's true.
They're focusing too much on their
Hitting, right?
hitting.
Yeah, I mean, they have Joe Bland. What's wrong with you? Joe Bland sucks. Ubaldo Jimenez would be a better wild card pick than Joe Bland when it comes to pitching. So yeah, maybe he might be an Angel. So far, we've had around like 4 Angels.
Or Yankees.
Or the Yankees, yeah. The Yankees are always there. Speaking of the Yankees, Curtis Granderson. He has elite power, yeah, albeit he plays in the Yankee Stadium. He is defensively good as well. So what do you think he's gonna end up?
Well, you have Soriano, you have Ichiro.
Right.
You might have Carlos Beltran. So if that happens, you don't have any spot for Granderson.
Do you really think they're gonna give a spot for Ichiro over Granderson?
No, but they're going to have an excess of outfielders,
That's true.
and Ichiro's under contract.
And they have Vernon Wells too. Don't forget.
And they're running well. So I think, I think Granderson leaves. I don't know where he's going to end up, but maybe a team like the Mets is going to overpay him.
True. Yeah. There were talks that he was actually meeting with the Mets too.
Yeah, maybe he wants to stay in New York, but
Yeah.
on the other side.
He'll go to the other side. All right. The last one, we'll wrap this segment up with the one guy that has polarized a lot of people, Nelson Cruz, with his recent PED suspension. He's back. You could say he's clean. He's just that he's not suspended anymore. Now he's out there in the open market. I don't think the Rangers are interested in signing him again. Now that they have Alex Rios too, I think they're pretty much set. I don't think he's going back there. Not really sure. I was really thinking the Giants would take a shot at him. I still think he might go to SF. Even
I
though
don't
you
see it happening. I mean, Barry Bonds, Melky Cabrera, do you really want another PED outfielder out there?
Well, at the end of the day, if the results speak for itself, if he gives you enough numbers and if he's a good hitter in your lineup, then
I just think it's a bad PR move, and I do think he's going to command a multi-year deal.
true.
I think just like Peralta, he's gonna get a big deal. I think people still believe in his talent and his production over the past couple of years,
Yeah.
even if it was PED fueled.
And don't forget, he's been pretty injury prone too.
He is injury prone, but I think someone will give him a pretty decent contract.
Yeah, there were some rumors that the A's were trying to get him. I don't think that's happening, especially after the Kazmir deal. So, yeah, I think I would say that he's gonna end up with. I'll say he'll end up with the Tigers. Let's just say that.
The Tigers.
Yeah, I think he might end up
Interesting.
there. He might end up there.
I think if the Royals strike out on Beltran, I think that's a good place for him.
True. Or even the Phillies. The Phillies are known for being crazy contract givers.
Yeah, you haven't really talked about the Phillies. I'm gonna give you. How about we give you a chance to talk about what they've done so far? In the
Yeah,
offseason?
true. The Phillies, one of the teams that I tend to like more. They're kind of the one team that I like from the NL. I don't know what they think when they do these signings. Like, do they not have sabermetricians when they decide to give up these huge contracts for Marlon Byrd? And then on top of that, they go on to give Carlos Ruiz such a fat contract. And then on top of that, they're trying to re-sign Roy Halladay. They're just getting older by the day. They have no prospects. And they were even trying to trade Dominic Brown for Jose Bautista.
Yeah, they're trying to give up more prospects to get a player like Batista. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I really
It's
don't
a
know where they're headed.
Curious strategy to take in the offseason.
It really is, because, I mean, when you look at that division, the Nationals have such a good core of young players that they're going to rely upon for at least 4 or 5 years down the road. You know, with that pitching staff, with Bryce Harper. And so I don't know how the Phillies are going to win the division if they just keep on signing these older players and just hope that they'll do better than they already are. And with Marlon Byrd, this is ridiculous. You're paying him $8 million per year for what? He's not going to do as good as he did last year.
Thinking about the moves that the Mets are making and the moves that the Phillies are making, I can kind of see why the Marlins are trying to go after Mike Napoli now.
Yeah, really.
They could end up second place in the division if the
That's
other
true.
teams aren't careful.
That's true. Well, no, I don't think that's happening. I don't think
Maybe that's a
happening.
stretch, but I think
Yeah.
they'll be competitive in that division.
I don't think the Marlins are going to be competitive for a while.
In the division, not in the playoff race.
Maybe there'll be someone who can change like a team's destiny. You would say, like, I mean, the Braves are good. I don't think the Braves have changed.
Oh, I forgot the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, if Justin Upton and BJ
No,
Upton,
never mind. It's the Braves Nationals race, but I think the Marlins come in third.
Yeah, maybe the Phillies will stink it up so much they'll finish 4th or 5th. That's going to do it for the SportsKop podcast edition, MLB Hot Stove. I'm Aditya Sriwas along with Chengiz Khan. So long, everybody.